What is up, fellow YouTubers? True Sexy Goth Bad Boy King Cobra JFS. Coming back at you with another vid. And today I'll be trying Monster Rehab Raspberry Tea Plus Energy. Boom. Show that logo. I already had a Monster, what's it called? Sunrise or whatever the fuck. Comes in the orange can. Or Sunshine, whatever the fuck. And, the, Monster in the orange can that has Sunrise on it or Sun, whatever the fuck. It basically tastes like Tampico had a caffeinated, carbonated cousin. But I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever actually tried the raspberry flavor before. I've tried the peach. I've tried the lemon iced tea. And they're both pretty good. So let's give this a shot. Hell yeah. YouTube, that gets the Gothic King Cobra seal of approval. That's pretty fucking dank shit. So, on to the topic of today's video. There is a school in Oklahoma City. This is on their Channel 4 News. In Oklahoma City, they're offering daycare for their pregnant teens. So in other words, basically if you're a teenager in Oklahoma City and you have a baby and you're still in high school, they offer daycare services. Now, it's bad enough they have to babysit actual high school students, but on top of that, what does that say about the sexual education system in our country if people are trying to make daycares happen for unmarried teenage mothers? Now, don't get it twisted. I think what they're doing is awesome, but the simple fact of the matter is, we need to rethink the way we teach sex education in our country. Here in the good old US of A, we need to rethink how we teach sexual education. There are some states that only teach comprehensive sex ed, which is good, which means they teach kids to be safe, smart, and responsible about it. You know what I'm saying? Because you get these kids, just like when you were teenagers, they have that one friend they've known since 4th grade, and lo and behold, she's changing. And lo and behold, you two are at a party. One thing leads to another, boom. You know what I'm saying? I get it. You know, most parents don't like the idea of their kids having sex with other people's kids. I get that. But here's the thing, YouTube. When it comes to parents and kids, parents know when their kids are lying to them, and kids know when parents are lying to them. So, why do it to each other? Now, some of you parents out there might sit there and say, try to relate to your kid. I get that. You sit there and say, well, I know what it was like to be a teenager once. You hear parents say that all the time. Oh, I knew what it was like to be a teenager once because I was there. Yes. At one point, your parents were teenagers, so they know exactly what you're going through. But, okay, and this is the but. The difference between when our parents and grandparents are growing up as teenagers and the difference of parents today, you know what I'm saying, is kids today are growing up around technology advancing all over the place. So instead of just instead of just being bullied in school and or at home or outside of school, kids today are now bullied on social media, at home, at school, and outside of school. 4 different places. So kids today, unfortunately, 9 times out of 10 don't have an escape from the problem. Now, the biggest problem with our society is if you're sitting there shoving abstinence-only sex education down our throats. Okay, here's the kicker of it. Society will make you feel like shit if you don't have a girlfriend or boyfriend. Society will make you feel like shit if you don't have somebody special. And it's quite unfortunate when we try to shove abstinence-only education down our children's throats and then turn around, make them feel like shit for their bodies, pressure kids into having relationships, shoving sex in our face 24/7. You want a fine example of this. Let's look at television. With TV shows on Netflix called The Affair and The Kissing Booth. And it's like, that's the kind of smut and puke that just makes me sick to my stomach, man. Why? Okay, it's the biggest oxymoron on the planet, dude. To sit there and tell our kids to just say no to sex and then turn around and shove sex in their fucking face. Like, what the hell? It makes my head hurt, YouTube, just thinking about it. We sit there and tell our kids, just say no to sex, and then turn around in the same society and turn around and then tell our kid, well, you're a loser if you don't have anybody. It's bullshit, dude. Like, I'm sitting here, YouTube, I'm sitting here, and I read this story on Facebook, and I was kind of conflicted with it. Part of me was like, well, part of me was glad that they, that they offered that as a service. But part of me was like, okay, it's so bad that they have to offer daycare for their kids because that's how many teens are getting pregnant. Dude. See, when I went to high school growing up, I went to Valley City High School, and I also went to Natrona County High School. Of course, Valley City High School was also a junior high. It's just how small the town was. But regardless, when I went to junior high and high school, when they taught sex education, they taught it the way it's supposed to be taught. By teaching kids about condoms and STDs instead of just saying no. And here's the thing of it. Okay, let me just be real with my younger audience for a second. Don't feel like you have to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Okay? You have your whole life ahead of you to date and have relationships. Do not feel pressured by society. If you are not ready to date and you've never had a date before, don't feel bad. You know what I'm saying? Do not feel bad. Because a lot of guys will talk about how much sex they've had, and most of the time when you're in high school, they lie about it. They brag about stuff they haven't done. Because for guys, it's a dick measuring contest, am I right? Why else would the jock stuff the nerd in the trash can? Because it's a dick measuring contest, right? They realize that when they get out of fucking high school, all the touchdowns they scored ain't gonna matter jack shit. And 9 times out of 10, the people you bully end up becoming your bosses. 9 times out of 10, that's exactly how life works. So if you're not intimidated by that person's dick size, then why the fuck are you bullying them? What do they physically do to you? Other than try to coexist in the same shithole school that you go to. And here's the thing of it. I mentioned this before on my inspirational video. It's about 40 some odd minutes long. But the thing I mentioned, every teenager may have a different life, but every teenager is at least going through one of the four things. Puberty, peer pressure, trying to figure out who they are as a person, and trying to figure out what they want to do with the rest of their lives. Every teenager goes through that at least once. That being said, why the fuck you bullying each other? I'm not asking you to hang out on the weekends and be buddy-buddy with, you know, the other person. But how hard is it to be courteous and understanding? And that's the thing of it. Instead of sitting there saying, well, I was a teenager once, I know how it is. Okay, yes, some of you might have been a teenager once, but you don't know what it's like to be a teenager in these modern times. When you're a teenager in these modern times, things change. Social expectations change. Sexist standards change. Everything's different. Okay? So what might have been socially acceptable for you as a teenager growing up is considered taboo for today's kids. You see what I'm saying? That being said, hold on a second. Grab my my trusty church warden, and I took a pinch of that Kentucky Select and put it in a much smaller bag. That way I can have a small sample with me wherever I go, instead of carrying a large bag around. Let me just load up some tobacco real quick. Let me tell you something. Sex can be fun. It can be amazing. When you're with somebody that you're sexually and physically attracted to, it just works. But don't be in a rush for that kind of thing, YouTube and Facebook. If you're in high school, I know I'm going to sound like your parents when I say this, but it's the fucking truth. Focus on your education. Because while sex can feel good and be fun, it also has consequences. And let me ask you something, ladies. Let me just ask you something. How would it feel to be stuck at home on a Friday night raising your kid? You're sitting there, you gained a couple pounds from after having a kid, so your body's disgusting, you feel disgusting. You're losing sleep, you have to work a fucking part-time job outside of high school just to pay for your kids' diapers. All your friends are having fun on a Friday night, and you're stuck at home watching your kid. That's something to think about before you know what I'm saying? So if you're going to have sex, be responsible with it. You know, wear condoms, use birth control, use protection. Okay, because that's just it, man. There's too many goddamn people on this planet. Okay? So if people stopped reproducing for about at least anywhere from like 5 to 10 years, I think we'd be alright, honestly. Now, do you know why Europe, and I hate dogging on my country here, and I'm not dogging on the United States, I'm just saying, why Europe has a much lower teen pregnancy? It's because they are straightforward with their shit. They're not going to sit there and beat around the bush and treat their teenagers like, oh, their ears are too sensitive to handle it. Okay, you gotta fucking realize, it's the 21st goddamn century. And if you're lying to kids about sex, they're gonna know you're lying because of the way you act. It's going back to what I said earlier. Adults know when kids are lying to them, and kids know when adults are lying to them. So that being said, would you rather your kid learn about sex from pornography? Go ahead. I'll wait. I'll wait for you to answer that. The answer is no, you wouldn't. You don't want your kids having a misguided view of sex through acting, is what it is. Because here's the thing of it. Some of the shit you see in porno is not exactly what I call normal. You know, your kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, if your kid has questions about that shit, and you can't come forward and tell them, hey, you know, what's what, then they go watching a random porno video, and some dude taking a shit on some chick's chest, they're going to be like, wait, that's sex? That's disgusting. Why would anybody do that? You see what I'm saying? Like, ew, dude. Believe it or not, I didn't get my first kiss from a girl until I was 18 or 19. I didn't get laid for the first time until I was 20, 21. So I'm a bit of a late bloomer. And not by choice, mind you. It's just, you know, shitty circumstances. But once I had sex for the first time, I realized that society overplays it. That yes, it does feel good, but sometimes sex is overrated, to be brutally honest. Like, it can cause so much drama in your life, dude. It doesn't have to, but it can. Now, there's a time and a place, and it's called college. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm not telling you to say yes. I'm not telling you to say no. I'm telling you to make that decision for yourself. It is your body, okay? You make that decision for yourself. And just because you see all your friends going out, having sex, and doing this and that doesn't mean you have to. Like, if your friends are all calling you names and giving you shit because you're inexperienced, fuck them. People who are in a rush to get experience, oh, they'll get it alright. How do you think teen pregnancy happens? And I'll post the article in the description box below if you want to check it out. But when I saw this article on Facebook, it gave me the idea to do this video and kind of, you know, speak my 2 cents here. Not that it matters. And I guarantee you, if I was the president of the United States, I would make it mandatory that every state teach contraceptive sex ed. Because that is the way things should be done. Much like when you tell your kids, don't smoke weed, children, it's a gateway drug. It'll make you want to do harder and more serious drugs. And then they go to a party, peer pressure takes over, they hit the joint for the first time, and they're like, coughing their asses off. They start to feel the weed take over, and they're like, wait a second. They lied to me about weed. What else have they lied to me about? And that lie is what makes kids try harder drugs. Some people have addictive personalities. Therefore, they'll get sick and tired of weed and they'll want something stronger. And sometimes when you're buying from a drug dealer, they're like, well, you know, I'm out of weed, but I got this stuff right here, little, you know. And so, conveniently enough, marijuana gets labeled as a gateway drug, and it's bullshit. But that is for a different video. That entire subject right there is for a different video. You know what I'm saying? And this is the thing of it. Something to consider. Okay? If you have a best friend that you've been friends with since grade school, do you really want to fuck up that friendship? Now here's the thing of it. Okay, if you've had that female friend that you've had since grade school, I know how it goes. You know, case in point, we flash forward to sex education. Oh god, they're pulling out the VCR. What are they gonna do? Or the fucking film projector. What are they gonna do? And it fires up. Hi. I'm a typical documentary movie person. Blah, blah, blah. This is John. And this is Jane. Now, John and Jane have been friends since grade school, but now both John and Jane are starting to go through changes, and John and Jane are noticing those changes. These changes are perfectly natural. And here's the thing of it. Parents like to think they can stop their kids from having sex and doing drugs. But the truth of it is, they can't. The truth of it is, you can't. Just like if a kid wants to smoke or drink, do drugs, have sex, rebel against society. I mean, and I hate to be that real with it. I really do hate to be that real with it, but it's the fucking truth, okay? So, knowing that you can't physically stop your kids from doing these things, it's important to educate your children on proper morals and to explain to them a couple things. Knowing that you can't physically stop your kid from having sex with other people's kids, knowing that you can't stop your kid from experimenting and giving into peer pressure and stuff like that, it's important to inform your kids of these decisions to help them make a better judgment call for themselves. You know what I'm saying? That being said, parents, come on. You were teenagers once. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But in this modern day and age where technology is getting more and more and more and more advanced, times change. Standards become different. You know what I'm saying? Cherish being a virgin. If you've never had sex before and you're young, still in high school, cherish that shit. Because there's times I crave pussy like a cigarette, and I can't do shit about it, except jack off to females on Chatterbait. You know what I'm saying? So, in a sense, sex becomes one more thing you crave. Much like tobacco, much like caffeine. And it doesn't have to be addicting if you don't let it. You know what I'm saying? All I am saying is that I'm encouraging my younger audience, as well as my older audience, to be a bit more responsible. Now here's the thing of it. do you want to fuck up that friendship? Because unfortunately, when you have sex with your best friend that you've known since grade school, and you and her hook up, sure, things are great for a little bit, but what happens when one of you decides, okay, this ain't working out? All of a sudden, you ruin a good friendship. If you two decide to break up, you end up losing a friendship over it, unless you two decide to still be friends. You know? And I've had to make that decision multiple times, mind you. I've had chicks that were just friends that I found very attractive, but I kept my feelings to myself because I didn't want to ruin the friendship. You know what I'm saying? And that's not an easy decision to make. Believe me, that is not easy to make. But, you know, that's just the thing of it. Oh, boy. Hold on a second. Looks like this wand is ready for the batch. It's like 14 more wands to make. But I'm also currently working on a custom wand for a friend of mine. I'm also working on a custom wand for a friend of mine. She already paid for it, trust and believe. But I've been more focused on getting that done, as long as getting this one done, as well as getting the rest of them in my batch done. And I've been doing multiple colors on the stick here. That's why you see all the painter's tape right here. Okay, so the next layer is going to be yellow, then green, then blue, then purple, and then the tip of it will glow in the dark. Okay, so doing a custom, I call it a psychedelic paint job. That's what I like to call it anyways. And a psychedelic paint job is basically a rainbow paint job. And now that this orange is dried, I can add the next layer here. So that's what I've been doing. All right. Let's do the yellow coat. the excess drip into the trash can. There we go. Back on top of the paint can as you go. Cool. Now I got 4 colors left after that yellow layer's done. Which is, after the yellow, I got green, blue, purple, and then making the tip glow in the dark. So that'll be a cool wand when it's all said and done. But, yeah. I know it's kind of off topic, but that's kind of part of what I do on YouTube, is show off my wand making abilities. Yo, this Monster raspberry tea. That's good shit, Monster. Hell yeah. Ice cold, refreshing, non-carbonated goodness. Well, my stomach isn't sensitive, but for those of you who have a sensitive stomach and you can't drink carbonated beverages, this is a great solution. You want caffeine, but you don't want the carbonation because the bubbles might upset your stomach. I get that. Here's your solution. You get a Monster Energy Tea Rehab, and I guarantee you, you'll get the caffeine you need to put some pep in your step. Yeah. But, yeah, I want to wrap this here video up. Oh, excuse me. Anyways, YouTube, thank you for watching. Catch your cool cobras on the flip side.